Why hasn't Nathaniel Brown been called up to the United States men's national team yet? Well, it has to be because Mauricio Pochettino is busy watching MLS games in Atlanta, right? That makes sense. My God, the hypocrisy is so strong with the United States fan base, and they are desperate for a villain, and they're getting it all wrong. We may have an issue with why Nathaniel Brown hasn't been called up yet, but it has nothing to do with what happened over the weekend. We're going to dive into this entire mess next here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub. There may be no international fan base that whiplashes back and forth between apathy and outrage like the United States fan base coming off a terrible international window. They're just desperate for anger and need a villain, and it seems to have become Mauricio Pochettino, the man we were all so excited to get coaching our team 6 months ago. And my, how the tables have turned, and it really came to a crescendo this weekend with another strong game from Eintracht Frankfurt left back Nathaniel Brown, who is an uncapped dual national between Germany and the United States, and the fact that Mauricio Pochettino was not in Germany watching him, but was instead in Atlanta at an MLS game. And what's so incredible is the obvious hypocrisy to everything everybody's angry about, and the fact that so many things can be true at once. So we're going to break down this entire situation and why the United States fan base, particularly some of the most prominent fans out there, everyone needs to just cool it and settle down and at least direct your anger in the right places, because what's happening right now is so wildly misguided. We're going to get into it all in a second, but before we do, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel. Get down in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Where does the blame go here? Is there even blame to go? Get in the comment section. Let me know what you think. You can also leave comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub, and check out the website pitchsidepub.com. So let's start with Nathaniel Brown, who was the catalyst for all this, although through no fault of his own, he had nothing to do with any of this. But Brown is a good player. He's got good composure on the ball, positional discipline, two-way capabilities, and most importantly, he's a left back, which is a position where we have almost no depth. We saw what happened when Jedi Robinson was out in the last international window. The drop-off from Robinson to his replacements is probably bigger than at any other position on the pitch for the United States men's national team, even more so than, Pulisic to other attacking winger midfielder guys, because we have a lot of players in that position. They may not be Pulisic, but we have a lot of them. We have nobody remotely close to Jedi Robinson. So when somebody like Nathaniel Brown emerges, you really have to, you really start to get excited about the possibility, and he is a guy in a position where we desperately need some depth. So the attraction to this player makes a lot of sense. Nathaniel Brown has emerged this season. He has taken a pretty consistent starting role on a good Eintracht Frankfurt team that is currently in a Champions League spot in the Bundesliga, and he's become a relatively consistent starter at left back for them at a young age, which is a great thing, and he's developed well. They have a good manager in Dino Topmaler, who I have talked about on this channel, and I think will go on to bigger clubs, and it's a great guy to learn from, and he is a dual national. He's an American father, German mother. He was born on a military base in Germany, an American military base in Germany, and so he is eligible for both the German national team and the U.S. national team. He has played with the German under-21, so he is in their system, and to date, he has had no affiliation with the United States whatsoever. So we've got to keep that in context, the fact that this guy is in no way connected to American soccer. And so this is manifesting itself out of sort of a pipe dream by the U.S. fan base. Now, that in and of itself is not a problem. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, why aren't we going out and getting this guy? And convincing him to come play for us, but this is something that is being manifested out of thin air at the moment and has not existed to this point. We also need to keep in context the fact that his emergence here is relatively recent. His first, top division first team, breakout happened this year, and there was, The outrage is that he hasn't been contacted by U.S. Soccer, and we don't know that for sure. The only documented evidence of that is from a report, an article back in November, where he said, no, I have not been contacted by anybody at U.S. Soccer. So we know that it was true back in November, but it's April, so we don't know for a fact that that is still true. It probably is. I'm not refuting the assumption here, but we don't know for sure that that's true. All we know is that it was true in November, and as of November, he really hadn't broken out yet. He was just beginning to be a starter. He was starting to get some traction, some playing time, and so somebody asked, and he said, no, I haven't been contacted yet. And that was true at that time, but that is all we know. But here's where the irony starts to set in. It's not like the United States Federation doesn't know who he is. Just because he wasn't on the collective consciousness of the United States fan base until, 6 months to a year ago, doesn't mean they don't know who he is. They know who the eligible players are. They have a database of these guys, and they're tracking them. They know exactly who he is. So if they hadn't contacted him to that point, it's because he wasn't good enough. And until recently, that was probably the case. And he had already been affiliated with the German system. He grew up in Germany, so there's a natural connection there. So this is a player we are essentially trying to steal. It's not like he grew up in New Jersey and then went to Germany to play. Now, if it's still true that Nathaniel Brown hasn't been contacted at all by US Soccer, I do have some issues there because he is far too along in his development and he's having far too good of a season this year to have received no contact. Now, I'm not expecting them to have completed their pitch and get him to come into camp and make that decision. That's a major life-altering, career-altering change for a player who has dual nationalities and is eligible for multiple countries. So it's not like this should have been completed, but if it's true, if it remains true that he has not been contacted at all by US Soccer, I do have some serious questions. But the outrage we are watching on Twitter and on social media by the US fan base is still completely illogical, hypocritical, and wildly ironic, and here's why. The outrage over the weekend was that Mauricio Pochettino was in Atlanta watching an MLS match instead of being in Germany watching Nathaniel Brown, which is just so utterly ridiculous. Yes, he's the most visible member of the U.S. Soccer Federation as the head coach of the United States men's national first team, but he's not the only one involved in recruiting dual nationals. He has been on record as saying that he wants players who want to come play for the United States. So he's not going to go out and make these convincing sales pitches, and I've argued that I have mixed feelings about that, but I generally understand the philosophy. He wants players who want to play for the country and want to be proud playing for the country. Remember, this is a fan base who just went absolutely nuts about the perceived lack of effort and lack of love of the badge and love of the country that these players showed in the last international window. So do you really want your manager going out and convincing guys to play for your country? Do you think that's going to solve that problem? No. What Mauricio Pochettino wants is guys who are dying to play for the United States. And that in and of itself is a good thing. But Pochettino also isn't the only person involved in recruiting dual nationals. There is an entire hierarchy that goes well above Pochettino that should be handling most of this situation. Above Pochettino is Matt Crocker, the sporting director, who oversees the overall direction of the men's program. In addition, you've got scouts, directors, player personnel people. There are a ton of folks not named Mauricio Pochettino that could have reached out to Nathaniel Brown and made this contact. That's who should be doing this job. Additionally, Pochettino being in Atlanta has nothing to do with his ability to scout Nathaniel Brown. You think he hasn't seen Nathaniel Brown play? He doesn't have to be in Germany to see him play and scouting him. There is video. We have the internet. This is a real thing. You can be anywhere in the world and you can get your eyes on this player. And that is why this hypocrisy is just so glaring. We have a fan base who is online screaming from the rooftops that they need to go out and get Nathaniel Brown, and they've never seen him play. None of you have gone to Germany to watch him play in Frankfurt. You are basing this solely on video clips, and maybe you watched a full game, but things you've seen on the internet, and yet, for some reason, Mauricio Pochettino can't do the same with his much more trained and talented eyes that you have. He can't do the same from Atlanta, back in his hotel room after the game. He can't watch a recap of the Bundesliga and see how Brown did. The fact that he is somehow neglecting his duties as a recruiter, which, by the way, should fall on a whole bunch of people because he's doing promotional work for the country, for the federation at the at the Atlanta game, at the MLS game, is just so utterly ridiculous. We have a fan base who knows nothing of Nathaniel Brown other than what they see on video, and yet the coach can't scout via video and has to be in Germany. The hypocrisy is just glaring. The United States Federation should absolutely be going after Nathaniel Brown. There's no question about that. If nobody from the Federation, not necessarily Pochettino, but maybe Matt Crocker, maybe somebody that works for him, somebody in the higher-ups, if nobody has reached out to Nathaniel Brown or his representatives, that is a failure. That is an absolute dropping of the ball, and there is legitimately no excuse for it. Now, if they have already reached out and got shot down, well, it is what it is, and we don't know that, and we wouldn't necessarily know that. So I don't think we can just assume they're not doing their jobs. We don't know exactly what has happened, but what we do know, what I will tell you definitively, is that any lack of attempt to go get Nathaniel Brown has absolutely zero, literally nothing to do with the fact that Mauricio Pochettino was in Atlanta making a PR appearance for the Federation over the weekend. The two things can exist at the same time and have nothing to do with one another. There are so many people who can be involved in this, and he can reach out, and he can send a text, he can make a phone call, he can send an email from Atlanta, and he can scout Nathaniel Brown from Atlanta much better than we can seeing clips on Twitter and YouTube. The irony here that a player that the US fan base only knows through video scouting that can't be evaluated by a man eminently more talented to scout via video than we are from Atlanta is just mind-bogglingly hypocritical by the US fan base, and everybody needs to chill out. What do you think? Get in the comments section. Let me know what your thoughts are on this entire situation. You can also leave comments on Twitter and Blue Sky at Pitchside Pub. While you're at it, make sure you hit that subscribe button for me down below so you can follow the channel and check out the website, pitchsidepub.com. Thanks as always for joining us here on Pints and Punditry at the Pitchside Pub.